Hey everyone, I'm sitting here in my living room and honestly, this is one of the hardest videos I've ever made. But I know I need to share this story with you because 3 years ago, I was exactly where some of you might be right now. It was a Tuesday morning in October when my world completely fell apart. I remember it so clearly. I was making coffee, humming some random song when my phone buzzed. A text that ended a 4-year relationship in just 2 sentences. No warning, no conversation, just over. I stood there in my kitchen, coffee mug in hand, and I couldn't even process what had just happened. The person I thought I'd spend my life with, the person I built my entire world around, was suddenly gone. And I had no idea how to even begin picking up the pieces. If you're watching this video, you might be feeling something similar right now. Maybe you're in that awful space where everything reminds you of them, where you can't eat, can't sleep, and can't imagine feeling normal again. I want you to know that I see you. I've been exactly where you are. And most importantly, you're going to get through this. Over the next few minutes, I want to share with you the 5 things that helped me not just survive that breakup, but actually come out stronger on the other side. These aren't just random tips I found online. These are the strategies that literally saved me, backed by psychological research that I dove into during my healing journey. The first lesson I learned was probably the hardest one. I had to stop running from my emotions and actually let myself feel everything. For the first week after that text, I threw myself into work, binged Netflix until 3 a.m., and basically did everything I could to avoid sitting with the pain. I thought if I could just stay busy enough, distracted enough, it would somehow hurt less. But you know what I discovered? All I was doing was delaying the inevitable. The pain was still there, waiting for me every time I had a quiet moment. I remember the day everything changed. I was in the shower. You know, one of those places where you can't really distract yourself, and I just broke down. And instead of trying to stop it like I usually did, I just let it happen. And something amazing occurred. After I cried for what felt like hours, I actually felt a tiny bit lighter. It was like my body had been holding all this tension, and finally releasing it gave me just a moment of relief. That's when I learned that trying to push away sadness, anger, or confusion doesn't make them disappear. It just makes them stronger. Recent research actually backs this up. Scientists have found that people who try to suppress their emotions after a breakup take significantly longer to heal. So I made a deal with myself. Every day at 7 p.m., I would sit on my couch for 20 minutes and just feel whatever came up. And slowly, those 20-minute sessions got easier. The second thing I had to do was probably the most painful decision I've ever made. I had to cut all contact. And I mean all contact. I'll be honest, every part of me wanted to text them. I wanted to check their Instagram stories and see what they were doing without me. The urge was so strong that I would literally have to sit on my hands sometimes. But I had a friend who looked me in the eye and said something that changed everything. Every time you check up on them, you're reopening the wound. You're not letting yourself heal. So I did the hardest thing I've ever done. I blocked their number. I unfollowed them on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, everything. I even temporarily muted some mutual friends because I couldn't handle seeing their name pop up. Studies show that people who maintain digital contact with their ex-partners show delayed emotional recovery and increased psychological distress. In that space wasn't about being mean. It was about giving myself permission to heal. The third lesson was actually kind of beautiful. I had to rediscover who I was as an individual person. It's funny how when you're in a long-term relationship, you kind of merge, you know? I realized I hadn't done things I loved in years. I'd stopped playing guitar because they thought it was too loud. I'd given up my pottery class because it conflicted with our date nights. About 2 months in, I was cleaning out my closet and found my dusty guitar case. On a whim, I tuned it up and played a few chords. something inside me just lit up. That weekend, I signed up for guitar lessons again. I started hiking, something I'd always wanted to try. I joined a book club. I even tried rock climbing and realized I'm absolutely terrified of heights. But at least I learned something new about myself. Psychology research calls this self-expansion, and studies show it's one of the most effective ways to speed up breakup recovery. The point is, I started filling my time with things that were purely mine. Things that made me feel like a whole person, not just half of a broken relationship. The fourth lesson was about taking care of myself in ways I'd been ignoring. I'll be completely honest. In the first month, I was a mess physically. I was surviving on coffee and takeout. I was sleeping maybe 3 hours a night. I looked terrible, felt worse. That's when my sister staged what I now call the intervention. She showed up with grocery bags full of actual food and made me go for walks with her, which I absolutely did not want to do. But after that first 30-minute walk around the neighborhood, I felt just a tiny bit more human. My head was clearer, and I actually slept better that night. So I made taking care of my body non-negotiable. I meal prepped on Sundays. I started going to bed at the same time every night, and I committed to moving my body somehow every day, even if it was just a walk to the coffee shop. Research shows that physical activity releases endorphins and reduces cortisol. Basically, it's like natural antidepressants. I also started seeing a therapist around month 3. Therapy gave me tools I never knew I needed and helped me work through deeper issues. If you're struggling and have the means to access therapy, please consider it. The last lesson was learning to let my people show up for me. I've always been fiercely independent, so when friends started reaching out, offering to bring dinner or just sit with me, my instinct was to say, "I'm fine, I've got this." But I wasn't fine, and I definitely didn't have it. My best friend Emma saw right through my act. One evening, she just showed up at my door with Thai food and said, "We're eating and then we're watching terrible reality TV. And you're going to tell me how you're actually doing." That night, I ugly cried into pad thai while she rubbed my back. And I felt more like myself than I had in months. From that point on, I stopped pretending I was fine. When friends asked what I needed, I was honest. Sometimes I needed distraction, sometimes I needed to talk, and sometimes I just needed someone to sit with me while I cried. Research on social support is clear. People with strong support systems heal faster. But here's what I learned. You have to be specific about what you need. Instead of suffering in silence, I started saying things like, "I need someone to listen," or "I need to get out of my head. Can we do something fun?" My support system became my lifeline. So here I am, 3 years later, and I can honestly say that breakup changed my life in ways I never expected. Not because it was fun. Trust me, it was awful. But because it forced me to grow. I learned that I'm stronger than I thought I was. I learned that I can be a whole, complete person on my own. And I learned that sometimes the worst things that happen to us end up leading us to the best versions of ourselves. If you're in the thick of it right now, please hear me. This pain is temporary, but the strength you're building is permanent. Healing isn't a race, it's a journey. Some days you'll feel like you're making progress, and some days you'll feel like you're back at square one. That's normal. You're going to get through this. You're going to heal. If this video resonated with you, please give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more content about healing and personal growth. In the comments below, share one thing you're doing to take care of yourself today. Your story matters, and it might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. Remember, you're not alone in this. We're all in this messy, beautiful journey together. I'll see you in the next video. Take care of yourselves.